Up next, we have the 1988 Playmates toy line Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. And the two figures we have featured are Hamato Yoshi, aka Splinter, and Oroku Saki, aka Shredder. Both of these guys do employ a cloak or tunic of sorts, a gi if you will. That is basically just a cut piece of cloth, and you just kind of, the way you manipulate it around the body makes it look like a type of a gi or tunic. It's purple cloth. Purple is a very popular color in terms of toys. Especially when it comes to, you know, evil guys. Evil guys love purple. Now, his figure pose is a little weird. He's got this really awkward stance that without some sort of help, he has a hard time standing up. Him and the foot soldier both kind of employ an awkward stance that makes them very hard to stand. And then we have Master Splinter here, who also has the single piece of cloth without the one hole cut out. It's shaped oddly, you manipulate it around the body, put the belt on, and it looks like a full-blown tunic or gi. There are other figures in the toy line that employ soft goods, but these are two of the earliest. Turtles did employ flocking later on when they, with their movie Splinter, and they did employ some more rubbery textures with like the movie Turtles. And there were other soft goods, I think Undercover Raph maybe. It's a figure I don't have that's very sought after because he did come with the cloth trench coat. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles definitely representing the soft goods gimmick. Up next we have Kenner Robin Hood. Now this was definitely a good movie. It's one of Kevin Costner's better films. And with these figures, there's a few things special about them. Number one, they do employ soft goods. They do have other gimmicks such as the arrows that actually go through the bow to make it look like he's drawing it back. But these two represent it as well in terms that he's got the tunic as well. This tunic, if you look closely at it, doesn't, if I recall correctly, yes, they kind of, it's not full all the way around, so it's kind of held together by the belt. I don't know if you can see that well. And then Sheriff of Nottingham here has the cool kind of metallic, almost chainmail looking mesh cape with him. And something cool about these figures, some would say it's kind of a cheap way out, but Kenner was notorious, as well as other toy brands at the time, Mattel as well, for reusing toy molds. So you might see some familiarities with these two figures with superpowers, such as Sheriff of Nottingham here. Uses the same mold, I know, in his legs and I think upper torso as Lex Luthor from Superpowers. I know the body of Robin Hood is very similar to the body of Green Arrow. Friar Tuck uses the same torso and legs as the Gamma Ray Guard from the original Star Wars. So they were notorious for utilizing the same mold across different eras, which definitely cuts back on cost of production. And there's Friar Tuck there. And you can see if you look up a skirt, PG-13, that is the same mold as a Gamma Ray Guard from Star Wars. So, with that said, the Robin Hood Treehouse playset is the same mold as the Ewoks playset from Star Wars. Now, I think there's just a couple things that differentiate the two. Maybe the color, and I can't remember if the Robin Hood one came with treetops. But again, it's just a situation where Robin Hood was a conglomeration of a bunch of molds left over from Superpowers and Star Wars, and made a toy line out of it. Now, that's not to say every mold from the Robin Hood line was reused, but a lot of them were. Now, we've talked a lot about capes, cloaks, and clothing in terms of soft goods, and even some flocking here and there, but I want to talk about fur, and I kind of hate the fact that I don't have probably one of the best examples of this, being Grizzlor from Master of the Universe, since his whole midsection is just a big ball of fur with arms and legs and a face. But we have Blizzard here from Primal Rage, a littler known toy line based on a very popular fighting video game at the time, and he's got this wonderful head of hair, kind of like a Albert Einstein, Don King kind of head of hair. Very soft, also very fragile. These little strands can break and come off very easily, eventually making your figure look like a man in his 50s suffering from male pattern baldness. But this toy line has some gimmicks of its own that will probably be featured in upcoming episodes. Soft goods doesn't just mean outfits. It doesn't just mean capes. It doesn't just mean clothing. It means flocking. It means fur on your body. It means hair. It means a lot of things, and this just kind of encompasses all the different ways toy lines have utilized soft goods to make their toys stand apart from the crowd. All right, excuse me for just throwing these in the mix here, but these are some of the my favorite figures in my collection, and they do incorporate, they fall right into the soft goods department as well, and I kind of feel like I neglected them whenever I was doing this episode. On the left, we have the main event featuring Ric Flair and Larry Zbyszko by Remco, 1985. It's All-Star Wrestlers main event set. It's a 2-pack. Now, the belt that Ric Flair has is definitely not one that came with him. It's one that I had that I just kind of put on him. But these do incorporate soft goods department very well. You've got the nice red jacket on Larry Zbyszko that looks really well and just kind of makes him pop out. And then, you know, Ric Flair, the Nature Boy, his very extravagant style with his fur-lined robe here. Very Ric Flairish, if you... That's about all I can say for that. He definitely has a flair for that style. And then we've got Rocky and Clubber Lang from Phoenix Toys, also around the same era. And they've got the trunks. So soft goods department, check. They do have a couple other gimmicks. You know, they've got the accessories such as the championship belts and then the boxing gloves that actually come on and off. Both of these are in really good condition. You can see there that they definitely cover the soft goods department. All right, next on the list, we're talking capes. This guy has got the cape to rule all capes. Now, it's a mixture of both plastic and soft good. A lot of his earlier figures did have the plastic cape, and they did try to make them a little more malleable. By one of his figures, I think it had 2 creases in the cape where you could kind of fold them to kind of show like the wind blowing. But in the grand scheme of things, most capes for figures were plastic. Talked about this earlier, and it just threw the balance of the figure way off. Now, there's something special about this cape, which you might have, remember from at the beginning of the video, is the cape folds down and looks like, this very flowy, very almost sentient, alive cape. But it's got this little feature on the back. The cape clips here on the bottom. I don't know if you can see that very well. But right here, the cape clips. And with just a little bit of movement, it pops out in all its glory and shows the entire span. Now, when it comes to capes, this is the cape. When you think of awesome capes, you think Spawn. Todd McFarlane definitely struck gold when he created Spawn. I know they weren't super popular for a pretty good while. They were mass-produced. That doesn't take away the design of the character. That doesn't take away the style of the character or, what kind of role that character played in a lot of people growing up. Now, this is in the mid-90s, early to mid-90s. So we're getting kind of towards the end of my collecting, my childhood. And so Spawn was kind of at the last end of my childhood years before I started, talking about cars and girls and things of that nature. But friends of mine who are 5-10 years younger than me, Spawn is to them like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles was to me. Just a very big part of their childhood. And the animated series of Spawn was amazing. Masterpiece. Definitely a great watch if you haven't seen it. It's not kid friendly, so it's not for kids. The movie, on the other hand, I saw that atrocity in theaters. That was at the time where CGI was going through its ugly duckling phase, and just kind of everything looked like a slimy Jello type texture. it was bad. This figure, however, is definitely one of the ones to top the charts in terms of soft goods because of that amazing cape that he comes with. And he also comes with a little owl that I usually perch right on his arm that he comes with, and he does have these free-flowing chains, which I thought was a great touch. They're a little big, but still, the fact that they are linked and not molded just shows that they did add a little extra detail to this figure. Alright, so we're nearing the end of this episode, so let's talk modern on where they nailed it and where they dropped the ball. So we've got two figures here. We've got Star Wars Black Series Farm Boy Luke, and he definitely employs some good soft goods there. He's got his top part of his gi or tunic, that is cloth. And then you've got this Dritz Warden figure, Legacy of the Drow. Now this came with a really awesome 2-pack with his Panther Guinevere. His cloak, though, it's the rigid plastic. And while for him it's not a big deal, because it's not this big massive cloak that gets in the way, I would have still much more preferred a soft goods version. Because if I'm not mistaken, I think he comes with an accessory that changes his cloak to make his cloak up. I can't remember, the box is somewhere. I just think that his cloak, now his armor and everything should be kind of rigid because it's supposed to be protective, kind of like a thick leather type armor. But his cloak, I think, should have been cloth. So we've got two examples of modern toys where they do employ the soft goods and where they've kind of foregone the soft goods in terms of a plastic cloak. Now, there are customizers out there that do make custom capes and whatnot for figures, as well as good replacements for figures. Some older figures, if they don't have, if you lost the cape to it and you really want to complete it out, it's very hard to find an authentic replacement. Oftentimes people don't want to let go of them, or they're just, very hard to find. And so what do? Do you just suffer? Do you keep that figure without a cape? Do you buy a whole new figure that's got the cape and spend an armload of money? Or do you get somebody to customize one for you? And so I'll tell you what I did. Now I've got this Shazam figure here. He is from the Superpowers line, and he was in great condition. Now, when I acquired him, actually, if I'm not mistaken, he was part of that toy case that I talked about in another episode, the Superpowers case that I bought. He is in beautiful condition. So, having to replace him just to buy a complete figure with the cape, just to likely take the cape off of the other figure, put him on him, was too much trouble and too expensive. This guy with the original cape, he's absurd. He's like $200. So I employed a guy that I met off of Instagram. He goes by the name the Cape Master or Cape Master. He actually made this custom Shazam cloak, and now it's not an identical version of the original, so you can easily identify it as a custom and not original. That way it's not misleading. But it is a very good version. He did an excellent job. I was very pleased. The pricing was very fair. Is definitely for what I bought, for what I got, the quality of it. It's top notch. I would definitely recommend. So, if you have a figure that had a cloak, that had a cape, that had a tunic, that is no longer there, but the figure's in good condition, or you've got all the accessories, don't fret. There are people out there that do make customs and replacements for those soft goods. Now, to finalize this video, I did want to talk about and go over some of the ones that I discussed earlier in part 1 and part 2 that I didn't have at the time. Either I didn't have them in my possession, or they were stuck in a tote somewhere in storage and didn't have a chance to dig them out. So we have a good example of flocking. We've got Panther here. Probably one of the cleaner examples that I have. I do have a saddle. I took it off so I can showcase the flocking. And then we have Claudine from She-Ra, Princess of Power, which also has the flocking. And she's got the doll-type hair on her head, representing two different types of soft goods. And then we had Grizzlor, which I talked about in part 1 briefly as a great example of the furry style soft goods. And I used a modern Mego to represent one of the earliest lines that used soft goods. This is the 1978 Christopher Reeves Superman Mego. And as you can see, he utilizes a few different styles of soft goods with the fake leather boots, the cloth outfit, and then the kind of nylon cloth cape. And then we have a similar era Kenner 12-inch line Star Wars Han Solo, which also has the fake leather boots, cloth pants, cloth shirt, fake leather vest as well. So those are 2 late 70s examples, and then we have 3 early to mid 80s examples. And I do appreciate you checking out another episode of Toy Gimmicks Through the Ages. Make sure to check out my other videos, as I plan on adding many more to my channel, discussing not just the toy gimmicks of the ages, but toys in general, toy lines in general, the provenance of why I have them, what I like about them, and I'm definitely open to any suggestions. So if there's something you want to see that I might have on hand, or questions you have, make sure to post them in the comment section below. And thanks for watching.